This is my mid-year update for visiting my favorite national park. It's needed because a few things have changed since I released my first version at the beginning of the year. And if you've been watching the news, you may know that there's been some bear attacks recently.
Holy heck! We're gonna die.
So I've added some more bear safety information. The other needed change has to do with the Logan Pass Shuttle system, because the shuttles no longer stop at several places along the Going to the Sun Road. For 2026, they only stop at Logan Pass, and on the west side, at the Loop. The new shuttle system is a little confusing, and I spend quite a bit of time on that one. The other thing I need to mention is that the Two Medicine Campground is closed for all of 2026. If you're a subscriber, you know that Glacier is my favorite park. I've been visiting it since 1994. I've made several comprehensive guides that show you why I love this place. This is the 7th year in a row that I've made this What You Need to Know video to help you plan your trip to my favorite park. If you're planning on staying in the park, you really need to start planning for 2027, because most of the rooms in 2026 are already sold out. Now, if you're planning on camping or staying outside the park, then it's a great time to plan for this year. I'm going to assume that you already know something about the park, but you haven't yet dedicated an hour or more to watch one of my comprehensive guides, but I'm sure that you will. But if you have, I've added chapter marks so you can skip over the stuff you already know. But please know there are some big changes for this year. The biggest one is that for 2026, you don't need a vehicle reservation anymore to get in the park. This is great news. Everyone can enter the park from wherever they want, whenever they want. But there is a downside to this plan. Each park entrance is going to be monitored, and when a particular area becomes too crowded, they're going to close it. And you'll have to wait for a certain number of people to leave before the rangers are going to let you in. And there's no telling when this is going to occur. They're doing this because the park is just being loved to death. It's just too crowded. And this is the latest attempt to improve the visitor experience in the park. You still need a park pass, but for the first time in many years, you don't need a vehicle reservation to enter the park. There's another change that's not good news, especially if you're a non-U.S. resident. There is now a $100 surcharge per person on top of the standard $35 entry fee. But if you are a non-resident, you can purchase a $250 annual pass, which allows up to 4 people in one vehicle to enter the park. Once you're in the park, it's important to know that there's only one road across it, the magnificent Going to the Sun Road. And its extreme east and west ends are the only places in the park that have cell phone service.
The glaciers, waterfalls, and sights along it are the main reason many people come here.
But there's much more to Glacier than just the beauty along this magnificent road. There are also mountain lakes, waterfalls, broad valleys, and of course, glaciers. You can see them all in a boat, on a horse, and of course on foot, which is my favorite. The over 700 miles of trails make Glacier the hiker's national park. There are trails for everyone, even if you're in a wheelchair. If you're a backpacker, Glacier has great multi-day hikes, but you'll have to reserve a backcountry permit for those. Most of you have heard of the Appalachian Trail, but did you know there's also a Continental Divide Trail? The 3,100-mile trail begins in Mexico and goes all the way to Glacier National Park and then on to Canada. A few of my favorite trails in Glacier are actually a part of this monster trail. Boat tours are available in most parts of the park, and there's one in Canada's Waterton Lakes Park too. I've been on all of them, and they're a nice way to relax after a long hike, or perhaps on a day when you need to let the blisters heal a bit. And yes, you can bring your own canoe, kayak, or paddleboard, but it must be inspected before you put it in the water. They correctly want to make sure that the invasive zebra mussel doesn't infest these lakes. The Grand Historic Hotels offer an early 1900s version of luxury, but they are in spectacular places. Glacier is a great place to see wildlife, like bighorn, moose, and especially bears. There are both black bears and grizzlies here. I know this from experience. It's better to see grizzlies from a distance. As someone may have told you when you were growing up, it's better to be safe than sorry. Glacier is really several parks in one, because there are several activity areas, plus the Going to the Sun Road. They are all connected by hiking trails, but not directly by roads. Getting from one area to another can take hours. 2025 was the third busiest in park history. Over 3 million people visited the park, and most of those entered through the west entrance of the Sun Road. And with the elimination of the vehicle reservation requirement, this year, it's likely that even more will come. If you came last year, you know that part of the mini Glacier Road was closed for construction, and therefore so was the Swift Current Motor Inn. Well, that work is done, and the road and the Motor Inn are both open. In fact, that's where I'm staying in early September. And if some of you are there, why don't we have a meetup and maybe do a group hike? It's true that visiting Glacier isn't quite as easy as it used to be, but I assure you it's worth it, because there are great places throughout the park, but it can take a while to get from one park area to another. So it's best to stay close to where you want to play. If you're staying outside the park, please be aware of the travel times. The more popular areas have their own lodges and dining opportunities that include the historic hotels, as well as cozier and more affordable motor inns and cabins. And in the remote places, you can get a permit for backcountry camping. Now let's talk about the things you can do once you get here. Most people come here because they want to drive the Going to the Sun Road. So that's where I'm going to start. I've made a long guide to this beautiful road, but here are some of the highlights. Most people enter the park through the west entrance of the Sun Road, so I'm going to start there. The town of Apgar is just inside the park. It has a hidden visitor center with helpful rangers. It's also a drop-off point and a pickup point for the new Logan Pass Shuttle. And Apgar has one of the bigger campgrounds. The town site is on the west shore of Lake McDonald. It has great places to stay and several places to eat and shop. You can also rent kayaks here, as well as e-bikes and even pepper spray. And it's home to one of Glacier's classic views. This is Lake McDonald. The Going to the Sun Road winds its way south of the lake. At the end of the lake, you'll find the historic Lake McDonald Lodge. It's one of the premier places to stay in the park. Nearby, there are lakefront cabins and a more affordable motor inn. There's lots to do around here, where the elevation is only about 3,000 feet, including taking a boat tour. One of the park's most popular trails is a little further down the Sun Road. This is the Trail of the Cedars. It's a short, wheelchair-accessible loop trail through an old-growth cedar forest. And at the far end, there's a really nice cascade on Avalanche Creek. The park is so big that it has several climate zones and ecosystems. And the Sun Road takes you to a few of them. Along McDonald Creek, there are pullouts that provide access to cascades. As the road climbs, it reaches a switchback. This one is called the Loop. It has one of the larger parking areas due to its trail access. This one goes up to Granite Park and then on to Logan Pass. The Logan Pass Shuttle stops here to drop off hikers and to pick them up to take them back to Logan Pass. Just a little further up the road is Logan Pass. This year there was a 3-hour parking limit here. It's an attempt to allow more people to stop and see this popular area. In past years, the parking lot has often been full by 6 a.m., and it never really cleared out until late in the day. One thing I do before I go to the park is I check out the park's webcam, where there's a view of this parking lot. I look at the webcams throughout the day to see if there are any typical times when the parking lot is less crowded. Logan Pass is the highest part of the road. It has an elevation of 6,646 feet. It has a visitor center, bathrooms, and of course, several trails. One of the most popular trails here is the one to Hidden Lake. It's a 2.7-mile round trip, and if you're relatively physically fit, you can make it up and down in about 90 minutes. But if not, you might have trouble making it back in time to avoid a parking ticket. And this is a hotspot for wildlife. The trail is frequently closed because of too much bear activity. But I've seen bighorn here and goats, and they're usually just fine, but don't get close to them. They are wild animals. You really never know what they're going to do. If you're planning on doing a full day hike here, you'll need a reservation for a park bus or a ticket for a red bus tour. I'll talk about these in a few minutes. Everything is downhill east of the pass, and I think it's the most scenic part of the road. Lunch Creek is a great photo spot, and there are several trailheads along the route. At a former shuttle stop, there's a pullout with a great view of the largest glacier in the park, Jackson Glacier. This pullout and several others have, well, I'll be polite and call them comfort stations. and they tend to be pretty well maintained and not overly fragrant. There are more parking areas at former shuttle stops and near trailheads. And then you enter an area of the park that burned fairly recently. Fire is a natural part of the forest life cycle, and since it's been a few years, you can really see how a forest renews itself. And be sure to stop at the Wild Goose Island viewpoint. It's probably my favorite view in the park. The road flattens out near Rising Sun and St. Mary, where this side of the road is about 2,000 feet higher than the west side at about 5,000 feet. At the far eastern edge of the Sun Road, you'll find the Rising Sun Motor Inn and cabins. There's also a restaurant here. And just outside the park, in the town of St. Mary, there's a large hotel, some expensive cottages to rent, and even a gas station. It's the only one in the area. There's also a fast service restaurant, and on a hot day, I highly recommend its ice cream selection. Well, now that we've crossed the Sun Road, I'm going to talk about the areas on the east side of the park. Two Medicine is in the southeast corner of the park, and many will tell you that the best trails are here. 100 years ago, this is where train passengers started their glacier experience. And some still get here by rail. The train station is a 70-mile drive from Apgar on the west side via Highway 2, and about a 45-minute drive from St. Mary. The trails at Two Medicine Lake are a 15-minute drive away. The Many Glacier area is 30 to 40 minutes from the east end of the Sun Road and the town of St. Mary. It's about 75 minutes from East Glacier. If you have your passport, you can also explore the adjacent Waterton Lakes National Park in Canada. Together, these parks are the first international peace park. The Prince of Wales Hotel, which is in a spectacular spot, is just about an hour from the east end of the Sun Road.
While the park is open 24/7 every day,
The famous Going to the Sun Road is only fully open when the weather allows, which is usually from late June through mid-September or maybe mid-October. It really depends on the weather. It's a beautiful drive in a car, on a red bus, or even on a bicycle, which have become very popular, in part because you can also rent an e-bike here.
to make the most of your time in the park, it's best to stay in it. I've made a video that describes each of the options, but here's the short version. The historic lodges are the biggest. You might even say the grandest. Lake McDonald Lodge is on the west side. Glacier Park Lodge is in the southeast corner of the park near Two Medicine. And my favorite, which is sadly too pricey for me these days, is in Many Glacier.
And my favorite place to stay is just down the road. It's the Swift Current Motor Inn. This is the area where the infrastructure has been completely reconstructed, so it should be better than ever this year. And this is where I'll be staying in early September. I've stayed in this area at least a dozen times in both the cabins and the Motor Inn. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the best place to be. The big hotels also have a few dining options, ranging from fancy to casual. They also have camp stores with everything from trail foods to bear spray. The Lake McDonald area has smaller motels and cabins that are more affordable. The town of East Glacier also has small private motels. On the east side of the Sun Road, the Rising Sun Motor Inn has motel-style rooms and cabins, as well as a casual diner and a camp store. There are also two very remote places to stay in the park. They're called backcountry chalets. And you can't drive there. You have to hike to them or rent a horse. They only have a few rooms each, and you have to pack out what you pack in. But staying there is very special, and the rooms are very hard to come by. Most of the rooms for 2026 are already booked, so you need to plan ahead. You can start booking rooms 13 months in advance, and that's what I did to get my room in September.
But booking a room can be kind of tricky, because 3 different companies manage the properties and book the rooms. And it gets even more confusing because some of these companies have other properties that have similar sounding names. You may think you're booking a room inside the park, when in fact you're not. So be sure you're calling the correct place and booking a room in the correct hotel. The bigger hotels and some of the others can be reserved up to 13 months in advance. And again, these rooms tend to go quickly. So I guess what I'm saying is, to go to Glacier, you really need to plan ahead. But if you can't do that, or those rooms are just too expensive, it's much easier, and in most cases cheaper, to get a room outside the park, particularly in the towns west of the park,
where there are affordable options like the Mini Golden, which is my favorite. It's in Hungry Horse.
There aren't nearly as many rooms east of the park,
But there are a few in the town of St. Mary and some cabins at Duck Lake.
Of course, you don't have to stay in a hotel. The park has many campgrounds. If you're camping in an RV or a tent, you should become familiar with the park's camping page.
Some of the campgrounds take reservations. Others are only available on a first-come, first-served basis. And they all have different rules. Some take RVs and some don't. And the length of RV that they'll accept also varies. Some campgrounds can close due to things like bear activity. On this campground map on the park's website, yellow indicates a closed campground. And in 2026, the Two Medicine Campground is closed for the season. For more lodging information, check out the park's website. Or better yet, take a look at my Glacier lodging video. It includes a detailed tour of each of the hotels in the park, as well as the rooms in its motor inns and cabins. I even give you a detailed look at my favorite place to stay outside the park. Now let's talk about the shuttle system. There are major changes for 2026. It used to be called the Hiker Shuttle. Now it's called the Logan Pass Shuttle because it no longer stops at the trailheads along the Sun Road. Now it has just a couple of pickup and drop-off points. They're at either end of the Sun Road, and then they go directly to Logan Pass. They're trying this because the park has become too popular, and the crowds are having a negative impact on the visitor experience. And I know because I've been coming here since 1994, and I can tell you, the crowds are a problem. The park keeps trying to find ways to improve things. There is a loose time schedule on the park website, and it's subject to change, so refer to it for pickup and drop-off times. Unlike past years, it's not a first-come, first-served shuttle service. You need a reservation to board it, and at the present time they're only available the day before, after 7 p.m. on the recreation.gov website. But starting July 1st, you can reserve shuttles 60 days out. And this seems problematic to me, and I think it'll have to be changed. So again, check the website for the latest info. And remember that there's limited Wi-Fi and cell service in the park, so if you're staying in the park, it might be quite hard to get one of those reservations. I really don't know how this is going to solve any problems. And each rider needs a ticket. They're $1 and can only be purchased on the recreation.gov website. Since the 1930s, park tours have been available in these red buses. There are half-day and full-day tours for the most popular places in the park. And the drivers are trained to tell you about the park as you drive along. They are operated by a third-party vendor and can cost over $100. You can purchase a tour in advance from the vendor's website. If your tour starts outside the park, you still have to buy a park pass. The vendor produced a nice video with some more information.
There are multiple tours that run from all of our properties, Apgar, Rising Sun, Mini Glacier Hotel, and they go all around the park.
Our most popular tour is going to be our Western or our Eastern Alpine. It's kind of like a half-day tour, and you're getting that one side of the Continental Divide, either from the east side or from the west side. And then we do have tours that go through the entire day. So you might start all the way on the west entrance and go all the way to the farthest part of Mini Glacier and back, with a lunch hour included.
I think if you're going to take the Going to the Sun Road for the first time, it's more enjoyable to ride rather than to drive.
Red Bus is going to set itself apart because you've got a driver with a bunch of training on geology, history, the park, everything that has happened from the beginning. And your driver's going to tell you the best pictures to take and all those kind of tidbits that help enhance the experience rather than just driving in your own car. Like, this feels really special. This feels like a very historic thing to be a part of. But then also just people come here, it's their first time, and you get to show the park to them. That's like just chilling. That's like the coolest part, just seeing everybody light up.
And there's one more tour company. The east side of the park is on Blackfeet tribal land. The relationship's kind of complicated. The tribe actually has control over its own borders. They lease the land to the U.S. government. And to learn more about this, you might want to book one of the Blackfeet tours. They offer full and half-day narrated tours from the Blackfeet perspective. On a more somber note, it's important to remember that the park really belongs to the wildlife who live here. We're the invited guests. This was made abundantly clear in May of 2026. A man was hiking alone on the Mount Brown Trail on the west side of the park. It was late in the day, near sunset. The 33-year-old hiker apparently surprised a bear. An empty can of bear spray was found near his body. This is a rare event in the park. It had been over 20 years since the last. A few weeks later, on the east side of the park, in Mini Glacier, and on my favorite trail, there were a few more bear encounters. These folks were okay. The bears left them alone. But this man was a little higher up the trail. He broke off from his buddy and was heading up a snowfield.
As soon as we looked at each other, it charged down at me, leaped at me. You hear it roar. And I just kind of closed my eyes and put my arm up, bit down on my arm, dragged me a little bit and let me go. And I kind of did a flip, landed on my back, and had seen the bear as I land was running away.
X-rays show how the powerful jaws of the bear snapped Daniel's right arm like a twig.
It's important to remember that your safety is not guaranteed in the park. Before hitting a trail or even driving the Sun Road, you need to know what to do if you encounter wildlife, and a bear in particular. There are both black bears, like this one, and grizzlies, like this one, in the park. But there's also moose, goats, bighorn, and the odd mountain lion. Once there was even a porcupine under my Swift Current cabin. Never approach any of these wild animals. And I'm going to emphasize the word wild. Even if you're not going to hike a trail, you need to read the park's info on bear safety. For legal reasons, I can't really describe it here. All I'm going to say is that it's very important for you to know how to be safe out here. I've hiked hundreds of miles in the park, and I've never seen a bear near me.
Hey, bear.
But I always follow the rules. And rule number 1 is make noise. I have been close to goats and moose on trails, and even they can be dangerous. So please educate yourself. And maybe buy a can of bear spray when you get to the park, as it's not allowed on most airlines. But I know that many people come here just to see a bear. Those are usually people who haven't seen anybody mauled by one. But if you want to see one, you should know that bears and other animals like to drink in the lakes and streams in the early morning. This bear was not far from St. Mary Lake, along the Going to the Sun Road. And now let's talk about the trails. My other videos cover the popular trails in great detail. Here's just a little something to whet your appetite. If you're going to hike the trails, you should download the trail maps for each of the activity areas. And if you can't do that, 4 of the maps are available in a pack at ranger stations and individually at the front desk of most of the park's lodges. The backs of the ranger maps have some useful safety trail information too. The trail distance information on the maps isn't quite as easy to understand as I wish it was, so you have to do some math to figure out how long a trail is. If you're online, you can scroll down below the map to see the total distance and some other info, like how hard they think the trail is. At the top of each map, there's a list of all the trails, along with the net elevation gain of each. By the way, I think the elevation info on these maps is more accurate than some of the other numbers you'll see on the website. Day hike trails are concentrated in 5 areas. The Lake McDonald area includes the Apgar town site. It's near the west entrance where most people enter the park, so it can be a bit crowded. There's lots to do here even without hitting a trail. But by the way, bikes and pets are not allowed on any of the park's trails. There's also a backcountry permit office here. The base elevation is the lowest in the park, and most trails are below the 6,900-foot tree line, so they're well shaded, which is handy on hot days. This is also the only place I know of in the park where you can rent a can of bear spray. It's about $10 a day. Normally a can will cost you about $50. Massive fires in 2017 and 2018 burned about 30,000 acres in this area, creating dangerous conditions and early seasonal closures. And that's always a possibility later in the season. There is another west side activity area called North Fork. It's a dusty 30-minute plus drive, some of which is on a single-track gravel road. It has lots of tree-lined trails, and some of them connect all the way over to another area called Goat Haunt. This is a remote part of the park, and there's not a lot of parking. There are Finger Lakes, forests, and Pole Bridge Mercantile, and its remarkably good off-grid bakery. Goat Haunt can only be accessed from a trail or through Canada's Waterton Lakes National Park, which is Glacier's sister park. If you download the entire map of Glacier, well, Waterton is attached to it. There's a little section above the border, and that's Waterton Lakes National Park. It has some great trails like Crip Lake, which is spectacular. And of course, you'll need a passport to go there. And the view from the Prince of Wales Hotel? Well, that's pretty good too. The St. Mary map includes trails along the east side of the Sun Road and at Logan Pass. Here you'll find easy access to waterfalls near the Sun Road, hikes to high mountain passes, and the popular trails at Logan Pass. Two Medicine is in the southeast part of the park. From the time the park opened in 1910 until the Going to the Sun Road was completed in 1932, most park visitors arrived by train 10 minutes from Two Medicine in the nearby town of East Glacier, which is the home of the historic Glacier Park Lodge. The Two Medicine parking lot is small, and when it's full, you're turned away. But that makes Two Medicine less crowded than other areas. And some say the best trails in the park are here, like the Dawson Pass to Potemkin Pass trail. If you take the boat, it's a 12-mile loop with a lot of elevation gain, but also some of the best views in the park. There are also short, easy trails, one's less than a half-mile long, to a waterfall. And there's also boat tours and a campground. Many Glacier is in the northeast part of the park, which is my favorite. It's about a 40-minute drive from the east entrance of the Sun Road, and the view from the famous Mini Glacier Hotel is one of the best in the park. And it's where most of my favorite trails are, both easy ones and hard, including my favorite, the Grinnell Glacier Trail. It ends at the foot of a receding glacier. Mini Glacier also has activities for non-hikers, or for those who need a rest day, like taking a boat tour, or riding a horse. Because here is one of the two places in the park where a vendor offers trail rides. The other is near Lake McDonald. But here you can ride a horse to Cracker Lake. It's one of the bluest in the park. And if you want to see some wildlife, each evening there's almost always something, a bear or a goat or even a bighorn, above the Swift Current motor inn. And if you're up to it, you can take a 5-minute walk off the end of the Swift Current parking lot to Fisher Cap Lake. And each evening, around dinner time, there's almost always a moose or two in the lake. It's dinner time for them, too. Okay, now I'm going to assume that you actually want to come to Glacier and that you're starting to make a plan. Well, first thing you should know is, well, this is not a place for control freaks, because Mother Nature's in charge here. It's great to have a plan, a list of ideas and things that you want to do here, but you may not be able to do them because of weather or bears or fire or overcrowding, traffic, lack of parking, any number of other things. It's a place where you have to be flexible. In previous versions of this video, I had an itinerary for a 1-week stay. And I'm not doing that this year because, well, there's no way I can know what you want to do and what your abilities are, your age, how many kids you've got, and how young they are. If you're looking for those kinds of plans, I really recommend that you watch my other videos. Yes, some of them are up to 2 hours long, and they cover just about everything there is to do in the park, especially if you watch 3 or 4 of them. And then you can decide for yourself what's best for you. Here's a few things that I think should be on the top of your to-do list. They're things that I try to do every time I'm in the park. First, of course, is drive the Going to the Sun Road. And stop at as many places as I can, wherever there's parking. And if I'm lucky enough to get a spot at Logan Pass, I walk at least part of the Highline Trail. And if I'm up to it, I'll walk out to a place I call my lunch spot. It's about an hour each way, so you got to be careful about how long you take in the views. Because remember, there's a 3-hour parking limit at Logan Pass now. And I try to do at least a couple of trails in the Mini Glacier area. Two Medicine's nice too. If I'm in really good shape, I might consider doing the Dawson to Potemkin Pass trail. At least a couple of times on the trip I get up for sunrise. Sunrise in the park is something that everyone should see, especially on the east side of the park, where the sun hits the mountains. I've done the Trail of the Cedars more times than I can count, and it's something that everybody should probably do. But again, it's very hard to get parking there. In the afternoon, by the way, it's a little bit easier. And a lot of people these days are taking shuttle buses. And if you definitely want to hike around Logan Pass, that might be your best option. Yes, there's plenty to do during the day here. And at night, I highly recommend that you step outside and look up. The altitude and clear sky means a city dweller will see more stars than they've ever seen before. It's even better when there's no moon. The number of stars is incredible, as is the Milky Way. If you're really lucky, you may even see the Northern Lights. If you're a young couple, remember that the walls in these old hotels are very thin. And the sunsets, they're not bad either. So what do you do if the weather is bad? Well, first, come prepared. Bring Gore-Tex versions of everything from shoes to hat and gloves. And hike anyway. On one of my first trips to the park, I spent several hours on one rainy day just hanging out in the Many Glacier Hotel. The ever-changing view out the large-scale windows and the warmth and smells of the fireplace made for a remarkably pleasant day. Well, for several hours anyway. And remember, the weather can be quite different on either side of the park. If it's raining on the side you're on, check with a ranger or hotel staff to see where it might not be raining. On more than one occasion, I've just driven to another area and done hikes over there. Forest fires are a bigger problem. Bear activity can also cause trails and campgrounds to be closed. Remember, this is not a theme park. Mother Nature is not your mom. And like your mom, she has no favorites. Okay, now let's start talking about getting here. I assume most of you will be flying in. I've been to the park 19 times, going back to 1994, and I tend to use the cheapest airport, which is rarely the nearest airport in nearby Kalispell. Few airlines fly into it and seats fill up quick, so I've only used it a couple of times. I've also flown into Great Falls, but my favorite place to fly into is Calgary. It's only a 3.5-hour drive to the east side of the park, and there's interesting sights along the way, like the head-smashed-in buffalo jump. It has the added advantage of being close to Canada's Banff National Park, and if there's forest fires or another calamity in Glacier, then you can just head up to the Canadian Rockies, though it's very crowded and hard to get reservations in too. Glacier has become a victim of its own success. Crowds have made travel, and especially parking, a big problem. During the busy season, the best way to enjoy the park is to start early. Popular parking areas are often full by 7:30 in the morning. And trailhead parking also fills up early, and you will get a ticket if you park where you're not supposed to. Another way to avoid the crowds is to avoid the busy season. I've made a recent trip in early June and another in early October. The weather wasn't great on the June trip, and many of the trails were closed due to snow and flooding, but there was still plenty to see. I had never seen Lake McDonald flooded, or McDonald Creek raging. The rain has other benefits too. The long drive to the east side was worth it, and it's always fun to see a bear. I got lucky on my October trip. I was there for peak fall color. Sure, there were a couple of cold mornings, but there were more pleasant afternoons. By now, I hope you understand why Glacier is my favorite park. And if you don't, check out one of my other video travel guides. I bet they'll convince you. For many, Glacier is a once-in-a-lifetime trip. But for me, and countless others, we keep coming back. Because you just can't experience everything this park has to offer on one trip. But I hope this video helps you plan yours. Please give it a like and subscribe. This channel is dedicated to helping you explore the West, because it's big. Thanks for watching, and come on out to Glacier, my favorite national park. And I think you'll agree, this place is special.